G'day, my name's Damned and welcome back to part 14 of my MoreCore extension coding tutorial series where we're building out the Damned basic dungeon rule set. So in this tutorial we're just going to be doing graphical elements, almost no coding. There's a tiny little bit of coding for options for the decals. Let's get right into it. So this is what our rule set looks like at the moment, our extension rule set. You can see there's a lot of blue there for the basics set. We've got a decal in the background. The modifiers and the dice pool have got their own graphical elements. On the right, the menu items or buttons are all somewhat themed. So the very first thing that we're doing in this tutorial is, you can see in the chat window, we've got the Damned basic dungeon text or graphic showing up there just above the announcement text for this extension, and where we code that is under graphics icons. We've got an icon named ruleset icon where we point to the file path, and that's coded in the announcement text. It looks for an object called ruleset icon. If I open up the setup dialog box, and at the moment I've just depressed the MoreCore themes button. I've pressed that button just so you can see what the down looks like, but you can see we've got blue and red buttons, and I've just gone with blue for basic and red for expert. You can also see that the grey background behind that used to be a parchment color, and it's now a newer grey background with a more hand-drawn looking effect. We've defined those so you can see in graphics frames. The buttons are actually frames because the buttons can be very, very different sizes based on where they're being used. So they've been defined in the core RPG rule set as frames. So you can see with the frame def button up and frame def button down. The window title, that was in the setup page, you can see that it says campaign setup. Under characters it'll say characters, or notes. It's that blue box at the top, and you can see there that we've defined the frame def window title as that image along with the offsets. The next part that we've done was the grey background, which is the group box, frame def group box, and group box is used a lot, particularly on the character sheet, but also in quite a few other frames. So we've replaced the parchment-like box with our different colored grey group box. And now we're going to have a look at the character sheet. So in the character sheet, we've got under the portraits, we've got the Damned basic dungeon logo there. Now you can see that I've had to wrap it onto 2 lines just because Damned basic dungeon is too damned long to fit there all the way across, or I could make it do that, but it's a lot smaller and it looks a bit out of place, so I wrapped it around for that. And you can see that we've got the MoreCore rule set uses a bunch of variations on the group box frame, and on the MoreCore tab they're mostly the group box roles, and then group box attacks and group box notes. You can see there where we've got the class and title, that's notes, where we've got the attacks, that's the attack frame, and the 6 roles boxes are using the group box roles frame. So you can see group box roles, it's another frame. We've defined it there, we've got a graphic, and we've set up the offsets. The DBD logo is specified in the character sheet template, and we've just pointed out the path here to the new logo. If we go over to the More Data tab, and of course this page is nowhere near complete just yet, it's got a very much beta spell set up in here, but we've also got the abilities, story, pictures, notes, and spells frames. They're the group box frames, and they've all been defined again in graphics frames. You can see group box ref, group box pics, group box notes, group box abilities, group box attacks, and group box spells. Quite straightforward. If we open up options, you can see for desktop decal image I've specified DBD decal 1, that's Damned Basic Dungeon decal 1, and that's our hero fighting the dragon. And if we use that string cycler to go to image number 2 or decal number 2, you can see the rogue making good her escape. Image number 3, we've got another brave adventurer descending into the dungeon, and our magic user is looking very serious there, gazing into his crystal ball. These images themselves are defined under graphics icons. Sometimes they're defined under a graphics decals.xml. In this case I've incorporated them straight into the graphics icons, but they're just a file object at this point. But we also need to create the options manager, add option value, and just follow this syntax. You can see that the option value ddcl dbd1, that's a string reference, and then the desktop decal dbd1 is the image reference. And then we also define the strings in our strings dbd XML. You can see the text there along with the string names. The next part we do is add the data options dbd Lua file, which is the file that we used where we specified those options for the decals. We need to add that into our extension.xml so it loads up on startup. And on this screen we're going to look at the buttons on the right hand side. So the buttons state up and down have been replaced, and we've also changed organizations to orgs because it just was too long. So the display text is orgs instead of organizations. And then we've also changed the modifier box and dice pool boxes to use a slightly different graphic, a more blue themed graphic. And you can see those here. We've got the icons for our buttons, so we make sure that they're all defined in here. We've got an up state and a down state, and you can see that the all of these are using the button blank and button blank down, and we're using that hack discussed in an earlier tutorial where we simply write out the name on top of the button rather than creating a graphic for each button, which creates both a less space consuming menu as well as making it a lot quicker to create these menu items. And there's where we've changed the definitions for the mod collector and the dice pool. And in our strings file we've created a string library record type label MC organizations, and we've used orgs instead of organizations just to shorten that label description so it fits neatly on the button. And that's it. So whilst we haven't done a full reworking or revamping of all the graphical elements on this rule set, we've done quite a few of the big ones, of the main ones, and we've covered off those in the two different, in our session 1 and this session, where we've quite easily rebranded this rule set so that it very much is in keeping with our target rule set. And most of these things are pretty straightforward. Changing strings, setting up some frame definitions. A lot of these we're replacing existing ones, so you don't have to understand the code or work the code. You copy it from Core RPG or MoreCore into your extension and replace your image or add your image into the right location. Now you may have to set up the offsets so that the objects tile properly, but those things you'll learn as you go through and do it. And all of these steps that we're doing, when you break them down to nice step-by-step instructions, are really quite straightforward. I've had a couple of people letting me know that they're working on various different projects, and that's really cool. And I really look forward to seeing what you're coming up with as a result of this tutorial. Thank you.